the week after Rio, I just won 3 gold medals for Great Britain, and I was going back to work on a train, and no one turned up with a ramp at Waterloo. And I just sat there thinking, last week I was a superhero. This week I'm nothing. What do we have to do for change? So I think when people watch me on TV, they think, oh, she's so able to do stuff. But the reality is that I need help to do everyday things such as, getting dressed, putting my shoes on, doing my hair, cutting up my food so I can eat, getting coffee for me because I need caffeine to get through the day. So, quite personal things I need help with. If I didn't have care, I couldn't leave the house. And it's actually really terrifying being that dependent on other people. I've had stories where I was in London expecting to meet up with my carer to spend the night with me at a hotel, and she never turned up. And so I had to call my boyfriend to help rescue me because I was literally stranded in London on my own. All sorts of stories, like I had a living carer who invited her boyfriend round to stay without telling me, and then she left, leaving her boyfriend in my flat. I felt really quite vulnerable at that moment in time to have a strange man in my house. So care should be paid more. I'm still dependent on these amazing people. They deserve better pay. I work as a full-stack software developer in London. I work 2 days a week, so that involves getting up, at 6 a.m. I have help to get dressed, and then I use my electric wheelchair to go to the train station. I have to book assistance to get a ramp to get on the train. Then sometimes when I get into Waterloo, no one is there. The staff is not there to help with the ramp, and the general public are really helpful. Like, they'll walk by, see that I'm sitting there on my own, and offer to get help, which is amazing, but something that they shouldn't have to do. But it still feels like the train companies don't realise that I have work to get to. They think I'm just on the jolly. I can take all the time in the world. So then I get a bus to work. Buses are normally quite accessible. I have learned that I need to get on the bus like one of the first, because if too many people get on before me, sometimes the ramp breaks, which is so embarrassing. Like, everyone has to get off to fix the ramp so I can get back on. So I haven't even got to work yet. At work, for lunchtime, I do find I take shortcuts because I don't want to waste any more energy, so I don't go out with my colleagues to have lunch because it's so energy draining, and quite often places in London are not accessible even though it's illegal. I can't get into the shop in my wheelchair because they've got a step. So, at lunch I quite often have it at my desk because I can't be bothered to go through all that. I do think also, I have become very comfortable with my disability, but there were some things that I'm still a bit embarrassed about, such as eating in front of people in a professional setting. I can be quite messy because of my disability, and I don't want to show people that. So I think that's why I eat at my desk. So I've got my monitor in front of me so people don't see me eating, and that is something I haven't actually confessed to many people, but it's something I do worry about with cerebral palsy. The response I normally get from companies are, well, we don't have disabled customers, so we haven't thought about it. And I'm like, have you thought about why you didn't get disabled customers? It's because we see a step into your shop and we can't get in. So it's about people thinking about other people, what can make their life a lot easier. It's so tiring to keep battling for equality. It feels like no one cares, to be perfectly honest. And the Paralympics are really amazing at showing that people care. Like, the crowd at London was just incredible. Having 10,000 people chant my name, but now we need you guys to go out into the world and start asking questions. If you go to a shop with a step, have a chat to the people there about making it into a ramp. Talk to your businesses that you work for about how they thought about their disabled customers. We need allies because we need more people to speak up for us. My fiance and I just bought a house a couple of years ago. I say house, I actually mean bungalow because I couldn't really manage with stairs, and it's so difficult to find affordable, accessible housing. Did you know that only 9% of housing in the UK is accessible? 9%! It's just impossible to find the right house for us. And, I see all these new builds going up. And I think none of them are bungalows, none of them. I can't live there. And I just really worry about the state of the UK in a few years when disabled people can't find places to live. It's just, there's obviously the Equality Act, the government has quotas on disabled housing, but no one is enforcing the law, and that is where, businesses and companies are getting away with not catering for disabled people because no one will pull them up on it. So, yeah, I honestly don't know what to do anymore. All we want to do is live a normal life like you guys. And, I think there's a lot of things that able-bodied people can do to help us reach equality, ask the right questions. Push your managers, ask them what they're doing around the disability space, because quite often we're forgotten about in diversity and inclusion. You don't have to be an expert in every disability. It's just about understanding and, putting in the effort. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if we as disabled customers can see businesses making an effort, we will respect you a lot more. Just have the conversation.